Welcome to Episode 18, Access Control Essentials for E1, where we explore how access control serves as one of the anchor points of any trustworthy security program. Access control defines who can see, change, or use information, and in the E1 framework, it is the foundation for demonstrating basic discipline. Without it, even well-configured systems can expose data through unchecked permissions or lingering accounts. Think of it as the lock on every door in a digital building. No matter how strong the walls, a weak or missing lock undermines everything else. In E1, this category confirms that each user's actions are intentional, identifiable, and limited to business need. As we go through the essentials, remember that access control is less about restriction and more about accountability, visibility, and balance between security and productivity. Every user in a protected environment must have a unique account tied directly to their identity. This ensures that when activity occurs, it can be traced back to one accountable person, reducing the chance of shared credentials hiding mistakes or abuse. In practice, unique accounts mean employees, contractors, and administrators each log in with distinct credentials, even if they share devices or roles. Without uniqueness, investigations stall because it is unclear who did what. Many smaller organizations struggle with this when they rely on team logins for convenience. A disciplined E-approach instead treats account uniqueness as non-negotiable, combining clarity with deterrence. It is the first step toward meaningful monitoring, trustworthy audit trails, and fair enforcement. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, builds on that foundation by confirming that a person logging in is truly who they claim to be. MFA requires at least two verification factors, something the user knows, something they have, or something they are. This stops many common attack patterns, like stolen passwords or reused credentials, from succeeding. For example, even if a phishing message tricks someone into sharing their password, the attacker still cannot pass the second challenge. In E1, MFA is expected wherever possible, especially for administrator accounts, remote access, and systems storing sensitive information. While implementation can vary, the principle is constant. A single password is never enough for assurance. Organizations that enforce MFA show auditors a clear, measurable safeguard against impersonation. The idea of least privilege sits at the heart of every strong access model. It means giving users only the permissions required to perform their job, and no more. This prevents routine accounts from gaining unnecessary power and limits what damage can occur if one is compromised. Imagine an accounting clerk with read-only access to financial records, not the ability to alter them. That small design choice stops errors or fraud before they begin. In E1, this mindset should be embedded in role definitions, group memberships, and system defaults. Least privilege is not about mistrust. It is about containment and predictable behavior. The more tightly permissions align with job duties, the easier it becomes to explain, test, and audit them later. A well-managed joiner, mover, leaver lifecycle ensures that access rights reflect a person's current role, not their past one. When someone joins, they receive only what their job requires. When they move, their old permissions are reviewed and updated. When they leave, their access is revoked quickly and completely. This process prevents permission creep, where users slowly collect access over time and no one notices. For example, a technician who once supported payroll may still have system rights months after transferring to another team. E1 auditors look for clear records showing that access is adjusted at each stage. Automating parts of this lifecycle through identity management tools helps ensure speed and consistency, but even small organizations can manage it through disciplined checklists and oversight. Timely deprovisioning of access is the natural companion to that lifecycle. It addresses the critical gap between when someone departs and when their credentials are disabled. Even a short delay can be risky if old accounts remain active or if shared logins exist. Many real-world incidents start when former staff still have remote access or cloud tokens that no one revoked. E1 expects organizations to disable accounts immediately upon departure, and ideally within the same business day. Documented procedures and quick communication between human resources, management, and IT make this achievable. Effective deprovisioning is proof that the organization closes doors as fast as it opens them, reinforcing trust in its overall access governance. Administrative access requires special attention because it provides elevated control over systems and data. In E1, administrators must have named accounts distinct from their normal user credentials, ensuring that powerful actions are traceable. This separation means an administrator does not use the same login for routine work like checking email and for critical tasks like changing security settings. Audit logs should clearly show which administrative account performed each action. Tracking this level of access helps prevent misuse and accidental configuration errors. It also strengthens the ability to investigate incidents quickly. Treating administrator credentials as privileged assets, issued sparingly, reviewed often, and revoked when roles change, is one of the simplest ways to keep the most powerful keys from being lost or misused. Service accounts, which allow systems to communicate automatically, also need careful governance. These accounts often run background processes, perform integrations, or move data between applications. Because they do not belong to people, they can easily be forgotten or overprivileged. E1 requires that service accounts be documented, assigned an owner, and reviewed regularly. Passwords or keys for these accounts should be stored securely and rotated on a defined schedule. When left unmanaged, a single neglected service credential can become an invisible backdoor. By treating service accounts as first-class identities, complete with purpose statements, renewal dates, and approval records, organizations can prevent both downtime and compromise. Visibility is the antidote to automation risk. Password policy remains one of the most familiar yet misunderstood controls. In E1, strong passwords are still required, but the focus is on practicality and protection, not unnecessary complexity. Policies should require adequate length, disallow common or breached passwords, and balance rotation frequency with user behavior. For instance, forcing constant changes often leads to predictable substitutions that help attackers. Instead, encourage long passphrases combined with MFA. Documented guidance must be clear and enforced consistently across systems. Reviewers will often ask to see password policy files or screenshots confirming configuration settings. A sound password policy shows that the organization understands both user experience and security risk, aligning daily operations with established guidance. Session timeouts and lockouts add a layer of passive protection when users forget to log out or when attackers attempt repeated guesses. Timeout settings close inactive sessions after a reasonable period, while lockouts limit how many failed login attempts are allowed. In E1, these controls help ensure that unattended devices and brute force attempts cannot silently bypass defenses. For example, a laptop that locks after 10 minutes of inactivity prevents someone from exploiting an open session. Similarly, an account that locks after several failed tries forces an attacker to stop or switch targets. Organizations must balance usability and security when setting thresholds, but consistency across systems shows auditors a mature and thoughtful approach. Periodic, risk-based access reviews confirm that privileges remain appropriate over time. These reviews require managers or system owners to verify that each user still needs the access they hold. High-risk systems or sensitive roles may need more frequent checks. The value lies not only in catching outdated permissions, but also in reinforcing awareness of access boundaries. In E1, reviewers often look for formal records or screenshots of completed reviews, showing both approvals and revocations. Conducting these reviews on a predictable schedule prevents slow drift in permissions and builds confidence that access aligns with real business needs. It also turns governance into a routine habit rather than a reactive scramble during audits. Logging both successful and failed access attempts provides the evidence that supports all other access controls. Without logs, even strong policies lack verification. Success logs show who connected and when, while failure logs reveal patterns of attack or misconfiguration. For instance, repeated failed logins from a foreign location might signal a brute force attempt, whereas numerous successful logins at odd hours could indicate insider misuse. E1 requires organizations to retain these logs for an appropriate period and to ensure they are protected from tampering. Centralized logging systems make analysis easier, but even simple exports can suffice if they are consistent and reviewable. Logs are not just records, they are the lens through which auditors and defenders see access control in action. Evidence examples that reviewers accept under E1 often include screenshots of user listings, access review reports, MFA configuration pages, or account creation workflows. The key is that evidence must be objective, repeatable, and traceable to the implemented control. For example, a screenshot showing MFA enforcement on a remote access portal is more convincing than a policy document stating it exists. Reviewers value proof of execution, not just intention. Gathering evidence as part of normal maintenance rather than as a last-minute scramble saves time and reduces errors. In E1 assessments, strong evidence tells a clear story of how access is controlled, reviewed, and improved, leaving little room for doubt. An organization that consistently manages access in this way achieves more than compliance. It builds confidence. Each safeguard, from unique accounts to access reviews, works together to form an auditable chain of accountability. When policies are followed and records maintained, access control stops being a burden and becomes a predictable rhythm of responsible operation. For BuyOne, this means an organization can show that every access decision is deliberate, justified, and reversible. The outcome is a culture where users understand boundaries, systems enforce them quietly, and auditors can verify them easily. Reliable access control is the steady heartbeat of every secure environment.